Hey everyone, Liam from Solitude here. Thanks for coming back. I'm talking about the latest Hottest 100 Triple J's annual countdown here today. This is the 2024 Triple J Hottest 100 I'm discussing, which obviously happened in late January of 2025. And in recent memory, this count has garnered more discussion than usual. Not people particularly saying that they enjoyed it as much, more complaints. I mean, I feel like the complaints about the countdown are growing every year, but it feels like they were for different reasons this year. So let's get into it. Now, I am a fan of Triple J, the Hottest 100, Australian music, all that jazz, as you would know if you follow my channel. So I do want to discuss what I heard on the day and the results, and I just want to kind of talk about some of the aftermath as well. So I guess the big thing that people were pointing out was that there seemed to be a lack of Australian music in this count, more than usual, more than previous years. I think it was 29 Australian songs in total in the top 100, which was down quite a lot from previous years, which have been usually around 50%. And there's a lot of discussion as to why that was, and I'm going to get into that later on in this video. And I just want to firstly talk about some of the results in the countdown. So let's start off with the winner. And I think this was a pretty obvious one. Chapel Roan with Good Luck Babe took out the count at number 1. Apparently it was the most votes ever for a number 1, which wasn't surprising because this song was massive all over social media and TikTok and Reels this year. Chapel Roan only had one entry you could vote for on the count as well, so there was no vote splitting issues. And overall, look, I'd have to say that I'm kind of happy for this song to win. It's a pretty good song. I really enjoy the melodies in it. It's nicely written. I don't really have a problem with Chapel Roan. She seems like a good musician and a good person. I much prefer this song winning than last year with Doja Cat. That song, in my opinion, is awful, and I don't think anyone will remember that song in 5 to 10 years. I guess the other big thing from this count was the domination from Charli XCX and Billie Eilish. Now, I found these two to be quite interesting, but not surprising. One, because previous years Charli XCX has kind of struggled to make the Hottest 100 and often overperformed in the warm tuners count, which is like the sample size that a guy does on the internet before the count actually comes out. But this year she outdid herself and she performed even better in the actual count than she did on the warm tuners. And I can only really put that down to one thing, and that was, TikTok trends. See, in previous years she has been someone that was more of kind of like a music nerd sort of niche artist. Your Anthony Fantano types usually got into her, but this year her virality went to another level and she is just full on mainstream now. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, she deserves it. She's a great musician and I don't mind her music. The Billie Eilish stuff, on the other hand, I kind of was a little bit more frustrated about, but not really too fussed because, I mean, she's okay too. She's fine. I don't mind her music either, but I just feel like people voting for her, and maybe this was the case a little bit for Charli XCX as well, it was just kind of like lazy voting. It just feels like she's completely swept the music zeitgeist, and she's like this complete crossover of alternative and pop now, and it's basically like anyone who just listens to modern music is like, oh, Billie Eilish, there's the name I know, I'll just vote for her. She's kind of like the equivalent of what basically Foo Fighters were like 12 years ago. People just voting for the sake of them, for just the sake of it. Like, the fact that this was the album where 8 entries made the Hottest 100 seems a little odd to me. I mean, I can't say that I've sought out listening to this album a whole lot, but I have heard a lot of those songs pop up on streaming and in the shops and on the radio and stuff like that, and none of them really stood out to me a whole lot. I guess the main song, Birds of a Feather, is pretty nice. I do enjoy that song. But I was under the impression that this album was not really her best. It was fine, it was okay, but maybe some of the previous albums which had come out from her were seen to be a lot better, edgier, and, deserved a lot more hype. So the thing that I found to be most interesting in this count, though, was probably the 2 entries from Fontaines DC. So Fontaines DC are an Irish alternative rock band, and they're quickly becoming probably the most respected underground alternative rock band in the world right now. But there was a lot of discussion online, especially on the Triple J Reddit page. See, a lot of people on the subreddit were kind of saying, I can see these songs performing really well on warm tuners, which they did, and a lot of people from that kind of like music nerd community really getting into it and pushing these songs. But on the actual count, maybe the song's not even making it. And I was pleased to see that both songs made the count, and both got in about 50 and 60, which is about where I expected them to land, and I think it was a pretty respectable result for them. But the reason why I feel like this is notable is because Triple J didn't really give this band a whole lot of attention this year at all. In fact, Double J, the sister station, who is supposed to be for more mature music fans, gave Fontaines DC a lot more attention. They had the feature album with them, and I think that they were on regular rotation all year. But the fact that they got voted into the Hottest 100 really proves to me that there still is a thirst for edgy alternative rock music in this country, and the voters just pushed that forward. And I hope that the Triple J staff members notice this and take note, because now that we've voted them in, we've shown them that this is what we want to hear to some degree. We do want to hear the edgy alternative rock stuff as well, that they have kind of been distancing themselves from lately. Like, surely this means now that songs from Fontaines DC will be getting in heavy rotation, especially because they've got an Australian tour coming up. So let's touch on the big topic here, which came out of the countdown though, and the lack of Australian representation. Now, I've seen some people online kind of going on this narrative where it's like, oh, this is all Triple J's fault because they're not promoting Australian music enough, and you know, the mega corporations are just kind of taking over, and it's a sign of like the imminent death of Australian music. And look, I just have to say, I don't agree with this at all. I think it's complete and utter trash to be saying this. One, because Triple J do promote a lot of new Australian music, more so than they actually have to. You see, I think, in my opinion, the reason why there wasn't as many Australian songs that got voted in this year is because the hard push that Triple J made on social media platforms such as TikTok and Instagram. About a year ago, there were kind of big changes at Triple J. Some people got shafted out, like your Richard Kingsmills, and the new people came in who had more commercial radio backgrounds. And I was really interested to see what direction they would take with this, and it only appears that they've gone in more of a heavy youth-focused direction, because they say that their target audience is 18 to 25 year olds, and that's who they need to try to get to listen to their music and their station. So that's why I think that they've gone really heavy on TikTok and Instagram lately. They're promoting a lot of stuff on there. They don't really share a whole lot on Facebook at all anymore, as it seemed to be a place for older people to go. And YouTube is probably the other one to mention here. I mean, they still have a lot of great content they put out when it comes to Like a Version every week. They do a great Like a Version. It's probably the biggest thing that the station does now. But overall, I don't think they do enough on YouTube. I think they should be doing a lot more. There's great opportunities to be making a lot more podcasts. They have brought a little bit of content out in the last couple of months, but their focus really, I think, has been on TikTok and Instagram, because that's where they see 18 to 25 year olds going. So it's only inevitable that if you push the vote in that direction to TikTok and Instagram, you're going to get more young people voting, which is what they seemingly want. And you're going to get people who don't actually listen to the station voting. And you're going to get people who don't necessarily listen to Australian music voting as well, because that's predominantly who you find on TikTok. Young people, people who don't listen to alternative music and just get and just listen to what is spoon-fed to them on Reels and TikToks. And also, another big factor, you're predominantly going to get women. And the results showed that over 60% of the people who voted were female. And look, that's not a bad thing at all. But ultimately, what this leads to me saying is that these results, I don't believe, are actually reflective of what Australian alternative music fans like. And it's because of the factors that I've mentioned before. You know, the overindulgence of TikTok and Instagram as a means to promote the count, and a majority of people voting, in my opinion, that probably don't actually even care for the content of Australian music. I think at this stage, the prediction website Warm Tuners is actually a more accurate representation of what Australian music fans are getting into. And those results, I believe, should probably be taken a little bit more seriously, because they pretty much show what people are getting into. And you see many Australian bands and artists are actually thriving on social media and Spotify in particular, and a lot of them can probably just thank those platforms for getting them out there. And there's probably some examples that I could point out that would not even be on Triple J if it wasn't for the fact that they had such good success on Spotify. One that comes to mind is probably Old Mervs, for example. They're like arguably the biggest Australian kind of like garage rock band going around, or surf rock band going around at the moment. And really, like, they had a big Spotify game before Triple J even came to them. They were getting millions of streams on some of their songs even before they got any airtime on Triple J. And yeah, like, I mean, what else can they say was the reason for them getting that attention, apart from their own hard work in playing their own gigs and getting themselves out there and word of mouth? The Spotify algorithm really is what pushed them. And there's a lot of other bands and artists experiencing the same thing right now. And I think that's where you find new Australian music. And that's where you can see that, you know, every month or so, I'm seeing a new Australian band like kind of pop up in the algorithm and find success and have one or two of their songs pop up to, you know, hundreds of thousands of streams or millions of streams. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, great for this band. They're the new up and comers. And you know what? I'm seeing it on Spotify. I'm seeing it on social media. I'm not hearing it on Triple J anymore. Triple J is becoming more and more irrelevant, unfortunately for them. So this kind of like narrative that the results in the Hottest 100 is the downfall of Australian music is complete and utter trash. It's just because the music industry now is on streaming platforms, and that's where you just need to see if that's where you just need to look to see who's actually having success. So go and do that, and then you'll see the bands and artists that are taking it to the next level, not the Triple J Hottest 100 results. Alright, thanks for watching this video, everyone. If you want to see more Australian music content, please subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks, bye.